Hey you guys, what is going on? It is your good buddy Sam, and I'm inviting you to join me on another Friday Max for Live Spotlight. This week we're going to look at a device called Mashup by NedRush, aka Rude NHS, aka He Runs Hundreds, aka probably some other stuff I don't even know about. Dude's got a lot of internet personas is my point here. The man is the Fernando Pessoa of Max for Live. But that being said, you know, the man makes a fine Max for Live device, and this Mashup is the latest example. So I suppose buy now means it's not free. Probably I should have looked this up before starting to make this recording. Okay, it's apparently £10.99, which I don't know what that works out to in pence and shillings if you happen to be pre-decimalization, if you happen to be buying this for someone in the 16th century for some reason. But once you've bought it and installed it, the same way you install most AMXDs, just by dragging it from your desktop or wherever to the user library here, it'll show up and you'll see it here, Mashup by NedRush.amxd. So how does this device work? Well, I'll show you. I'm going to make a new track here. You have to make a MIDI track, even though it doesn't work like most MIDI devices. Mashup is in fact a MIDI instrument, so it takes MIDI and produces audio, even though it actually ignores the MIDI. So how does it work? Well, you start by dropping in a sound here where it says drop a sound here. I'll do just that. I will drop in a sound here. There's a button down here that says transport OK. I have no idea what this button does, but I sure am glad it's there, assuring me that the transport is okay, maybe, whatever that means. Start and stop, of course, does what you'd expect, start and stop, and then everything else is all geared towards chopping up this sample into a bunch of little loops. So loop length down here refers to how long the original loop is. This loop here is 2 bars long, or 2 measures, I guess. What is the difference between a measure and a bar? I actually have no musical education whatsoever. So we should set this to 2 bars if we want this to play back at normal speed. Though, of course, you could set it to something else if you want to play faster or slower. This slices down here, we'll talk about. So basically what's going on here, this is a probabilistic looper / remixer. And what it does is just starts to from this source sound, play loops, play little chunks of it. And this slices here determines where it can potentially start from. You know, the beginning, halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, and so on. So if you jump up to 8 slices, then it could start at the beginning, or 1/8 of the way through, 2/8 of the way through, 3/8 of the way through, and so on. And the height of each of these bars is the probability that when this thing does loop back around, it will start from that particular slice. So if we crank up the first one all the way and drop all the others down to 0, you will see that it always starts playing from the beginning. But if I crank up this bar right here, you'll see there's some chance that it will start from this second half. And if you make all the bars have some height, well, then it can start from anywhere, can't it? So this thing over here, this guy right here, determines how long the individual loops are going to be. Whole note, half notes, half note dotted, eighth note dotted, eighth note, and so on. If you make it so that only the 16th note bar has any height, then the loop will always be 16th notes. There you go. And then by, of course, giving these other bars some height, you can determine the likelihood that the loop will have a different length. It seems to take a little while to re-trigger or to read that in once you start and stop. I'm not sure what's up with that. That brings me to this re-trigger rate down here. What I thought this re-trigger rate would do would be how often the internal loop picker or whatever would pick a new place to loop and a new length to loop. So that if, for example, you set this to be all 16th notes and then picked a re-trigger rate of quarter notes, it would start a new loop every quarter note, but the loop would always be 16th notes in length, so you'd be looping groups of 16th notes, groups of size 4. So, you know, like ba-da-da-da, and then, ba-da-da-da, and then jump to a new place, ba-da-da-da, jump to a new place, and so on. That's not actually what this retrigger rate does. Near as I can tell, this retrigger rate is actually how often, if you start to draw random nonsense in here, the retrigger rate is how often that new thing you've drawn actually gets pushed. To be honest, I'm not really sure if that's the best use of this retrigger rate thing. And I think that of course I think that my idea is better, but I think that if I had done it, that's probably what I would have had this retrigger rate do. But, you know, I can't exactly point you to my version of this max for live device, so I should probably just shut up. Playbacks here, this is how the style in which the loop plays back. You've got forward, play it forward, backward, play it backward, slow, half speed, slow backward, backward, half speed. Pitch start and stop are interesting. Pitch stop is start at normal speed and then go back down to 0. Pitch start is start stopped and then loop up or gradually increase speed to normal. That record starting kind of effect. Stretch is meant to be some kind of granular time stretching. In my experience, it's just kind of a make your sound turn really gritty effect, if that's what you're into. And pitch roll is cool. Pitch roll is kind of a stepped pitch shift. Definitely kind of a cool effect. So anyway, the basic idea behind using this thing is you would make this some random thing, make this some random thing, and then, you know, starts to go mental on you. So one thing that comes up is, you know, you want to drop into this thing a loop, where that loop has a length that... So one thing that happens is you want to drop a loop into this thing, say a 2-bar loop or a 4-bar loop. The issue is that sometimes you're picking that loop within live itself from a much larger sample. So take, for example, this Kodo solo loop that I've thrown in here. This is from a longer piece of music, out of which you can see I've selected one loop or one bar here in live. I want to drop that sample into this Mashup device, but I don't want to drop this whole thing. I just want to drop this one loop. So what do? Well, the idea is you need to you can record that loop in live, and then once you've got that loop, drop it into Mashup. So here I've made an audio track that very importantly takes audio from resampling. That means that all the sound that gets played out of live is also being recorded by this track. So if I arm this track and then start to play, let's see, I want to play this guy. You can see this resampling track is picking that up. You can see the sound is coming in here. So what I can do with that is start to record and then just record the loop that live is playing here into this track. If I do that, I'm going to also very importantly make sure that this loop is not looping. So warp is on, but loop is off. And so what I can do now is start to record here. And then this loop here, you can see is just the chunk of audio from this bigger audio file here that I actually want to use. It's just that loop. Though it does have a little bit of silence at the end. And I'll show you how to deal with that. One thing you can do is push the edit button here. And for me, my editor is Audacity. You probably could use something better. You almost definitely have something better, but you know, it's Audacity, it's free, it works. So then if I select all the audio by pushing Command A and come up to Edit, Clip Boundaries, Detach at Silences, you can see it trims off that silence at the end from after live had finished playing that loop. And now this bit right here is exactly the right length loop to drop back into live. So I come up to File, Export Selection. The original file is named 0225audio.aif. This will replace the original sample. Ableton, or rather Audacity, makes some warning about naming an AIFF file AIF because I have no idea. I'm super anal retentive that way. Yes, I want to replace that sample. add whatever metadata Audacity thinks is appropriate. And then back in live, there we go. We got our sample. And this you can drop right into Mashup by NedRush, and you're good to go. Solo this guy. Cool, so that's the how to work with your own audio in the context of this device. I think it's a lot of fun. You can get some really cool stuff out of it. In particular, it works really well if you happen to have samples like this guy. Let's just solo this a second. That have a nice kind of pitch to them. It works really well with this pitched melodic material. Let's throw this in here. This is the loop itself. See how this sounds. This device is off for some reason. Why is this off? Play this. Why are you? Oh, the device is deactivated. It works really well with much more rhythmic material. And it works really well with vocal material as well. In case you were curious, this is the original.
Well, yeah, who needs a first aid kit when you got 10 gallons of booze?
And then the NedRush affected version.
Well,
could do a little Archer remix if you wanted. Cool. So that's about all I've got to say about this Mashup device. It's a lot of fun. Definitely a great way to generate a lot of useful material. And all in all, just a really fun device. So thanks again to MrNedRush for sharing this patcher with me, sharing this Max for Live device with me. If you've got a Max for Live device you'd like me to take a look at, by all means send it to me. A backlog is actually generated, but I will try to get to them all eventually. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next Friday for another Max for Live Spotlight. Have a good weekend.